Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 658. I have the white pieces and started off with d4. My opponent plays d5, and after c4 he plays c6, the Slav defense. So we get one normal move here, and then my opponent plays the very rare move g6. Knight f6 is almost always played here, or just e6 going for the triangle setup immediately, but it's pretty rare to go for the commit to the fianchetto of the bishop at this point, although it doesn't seem to be anything especially horrible about it. I mean, I looked at this with the chess engine and there doesn't seem to be any immediate way to punish it. It's just a kind of an unusual move order. And in fact, we wander back into a very normal position. So it looks for a second like e3 is taking us out of the opening book. But we can see knight f6 already, which is the normal move 3 for black, would get us back into the book. He played bishop g7, I went knight c3. And now he goes knight f6, and we're back to a position that has been seen many times. So we're in a mainline position of the Slav defense. This is known as the Schlechter Slav, where the pawns are put on light squares. And normally, well, we'll get to that. Let's see, it's coming up in a little bit. I was getting ahead of myself here. So we'll talk about the Schlechter Slav in a bit, but that's the name for this setup. I went bishop d3 here, a little bit of a misstep, I say. The bishop on d3 is usually good against the Slav, but with this fianchetto setup here, it's just hitting on a pretty solid group of pawns there. So really, bishop to e2 makes more sense. Just put the bishop on this good square, and that would be the best way to continue. But bishop d3 is okay and still keeps some kind of edge for white. The thing is that black setup is very passive, the Schlechter Slav in general. Although it's a solid opening, it doesn't give black a whole lot of chances for counterplay, especially in the early stages. So white gets a good game in most cases. Anyway, he castles, so that's a main move. I castle. And now he plays e6. So just to show how the idea of the Schlechter Slav, which this player didn't really seem to understand, the idea is to get rid of your bishop. Play bishop to g5. And then after this exchange, then play e6. And all the pawns are on light squares, is what I was starting to say earlier. And the light squared bishop is gone, so this is a good bishop here. The dark squared bishop is good. The position is kind of close, so black is hoping that white's bishop pair advantage won't account for very much. And he's just got a very solid setup here with no weaknesses, and he's got the dark squared bishop to cover the holes with the light squared pawn chain. In fact, they often follow up with moves like a6 and b5, keeping all of the pawns on light squares, not even allowing one little exception there. Anyway, that's not how he played. He went with e6 immediately, and this just locks the bishop in behind the pawn chain and leaves black with a bad game. So I played e4 here. Seems like an okay move. I like to open up the center whenever I can get away with it, and it seems like it's all right in this case. Takes, I take. It does, that you always have to recognize that you're relieving black's position a little bit by allowing this exchange when you push forward with e4. So it's not always called for. That rule of thumb that I always play that is maybe not the best rule to go by. But opening things up while you have a lead in development and more control of the center is usually good. Okay, so he goes knight d7 here. I just dropped my bishop back to d2. Actually, the chess engine here, we're out of the opening book now. Chess engine liked bishop f4. I mean, there was no need to retreat this bishop. At this point in time, it's not under attack, and why not just develop another piece? And bishop f4, often I like to play h3 before playing bishop f4, so it has this retreat square and it won't get chased around by a knight. But this knight is a couple moves away. Here, erase that arrow. The knight is 2 moves away from being able to harass the bishop, so I can put the bishop out first, and if the knight starts moving in this direction, then I can play h3 later. So that makes a lot of sense to just play bishop f4 here. But what I played was bishop c2. Still okay, but bishop f4 was more accurate. Let's see, knight b6, hitting the c-pawn, and I play queen d3, defending the c-pawn. It looks like this battery might be something, but once again, it's hitting on this pawn structure over here on the king side, which is not easily broken down. I mean, I could think of ideas like pushing the h-pawn forward as a way to go after that structure, but that's just going to be a slow process. So this battery really is not doing anything. The main purpose was just to defend the center there. The center c-pawn. Okay, he goes bishop d7. He's got to try and find a way to do something with this bishop. And actually had a chance. Let's see. Played rook b1 here. I'm just preparing to push forward on the queen side and also get things off this dark squared diagonal, so I can push my pawns forward without fear of having that rook exposed. And he went knight c8, so that is where I think his game starts to go downhill. In spite of the fact that he's played in a kind of a peculiar fashion, he has a cramped position and a locked-in bishop. He's not losing. This is still a playable position for black, but he needs to do something. He needs to free up his position, and the chess engine finds this nice solution with the move e5. So just it looks like a pawn sacrifice, but actually it's not quite a pawn sacrifice. Say I take. Then he can liberate the bishop with the bishop to g4. And, well, this pawn is under attack. I mean, there's a threat of taking the knight and then taking the pawn. And if I defend like this, then he can just take off the knight. And I either have to take with a pawn, leaving kind of a messed up king side but staying a pawn up, or take with the queen, or I'd have a nice structure on the queen side, but I'd lose this pawn. So either way, black has a little bit of compensation. So still a playable position for black. After knight c8, this is probably not even playable anymore. Not that I'm the sort of person that can accurately punish this entirely, but probably with good play, black is already lost here. Anyway, I play okay. I play rook e1, get my pieces active. He goes a6, putting yet another pawn on a light square. So he's fulfilled this Schlechter Slav strategy of putting all his pawns on light squares. He just forgot to get rid of his bishop first. So I activate my bishop. He goes queen to c7. I go queen d2. I'm thinking of trading off his strongest piece, this dark squared bishop. He goes knight b6, taking a look at my c-pawn again, so I pause to defend that. And then he plays f6, kicking my bishop around. So I went bishop h6, trying to get this trade in. Also, this f6 move, it kind of takes some of the sting out of this bishop here. It's no longer making many threats along that diagonal. But what it does, though, I mean, that's bad from that point of view. But from the positive aspect of it is it does support a e5 push later, which might liberate this bishop. So black is still playing on here. I go with c5. Oh, no, it's his turn. He goes with c5. He's not in any hurry to trade here. So I went ahead and took the bishop up. That was my plan. There's an interesting move here, which has a tactical point to it. D takes c5. And so if you want to just look at the video here, look at the screen and ignore the notation, maybe you can figure out what the point of d takes c5 is. Why is that a good move? Okay, well, the idea is if he takes that pawn, then you can bring the bishop back, hitting his queen, and the queen is overloaded. The queen is defending the knight, but the queen is also, in a way, needed to defend the bishop, because after the queen moves, I can take this knight off and then take the bishop, and there's no way to avoid losing material here. I mean, the knight is loose here. The only piece that's defending it is the queen, and after the exchange, the queen is dragged away from defense of the bishop. So black is losing a piece. I think the chess engine recommended sacrificing the knight by playing knight takes c4, which black can get away with because it's hitting my queen, but that's still giving up a piece for a pawn or two. So anyway, that's just winning. D takes c5 is a good move there. Anyway, I went ahead with the exchange I'd planned. He took back. Let's see, I went queen e3, just trying to put some pressure on the pawn. I didn't see this idea that I could have just taken it right away. Well, maybe it doesn't work anymore after the trade of the bishop. But I put my queen here, and I'm threatening to take that pawn. And he played rook a to e8, sort of ignoring my threat. Let's see, I paused to play rook b to d1. He went bishop to c6, and now I took the pawn off. It goes knight d7, and I went b4, just defending all of my pawns. So this game is a kind of a long game, so let's go through the rest of this kind of quickly. I mean, basically, I'm just winning here. I have a pawn up, and I have more active pieces. He did finally get his light squared bishop active, but the rest of his setup is not looking too great. He's got a real space advantage, and well, I don't know. He has these solid pawns around the king. It'll take me a while to break through, so it's not going to be a game that's going to be over immediately. But in the long run, I'm just winning. And well, this trade probably doesn't do anything to help his position, but maybe that bishop was going to become a target anyway. I had ideas of a4 and b5, I guess. Anyway, let's see, he goes knight e5, activating his knight. That's good. Bring my queen back to c3, defending, and he plays king to g8. And this is where his game takes another leg downhill. He really needed to play a move like rook d8, just challenge for control of the d file. After king g8, now I can penetrate with my rook. And this is the part where I'll just kind of fast forward. I'm just winning some more material here, and there's nothing really he could do about it. So I now have a two-pawn edge, and he keeps playing on. But like I said, there was no good opportunities, and I just took all the pieces off, and we get into an endgame of bishop versus knight where I'm 2 pawns up. But there's one more interesting point coming up here. When he played king c7, yeah, there's a nice way to break through here in the king and pawn endgame, and this is a useful kind of technique to keep in mind. Basically, you can push the b pawn forward with the tempo because it hits the king. And he doesn't have too many squares. He can't come forward because of the bishop. And he wants to keep defending the b pawn. So he can't, for example, go to the side. So this means his king is forced back. There's only 2 squares that defend the pawn. And then you can push this pawn forward. And this leads to a winning position. You're just going to take there if he doesn't take. So he takes. And now the bishop is guarding the pawn is guarding those squares, the bishop is guarding those squares, so his king is kind of boxed in, and there's nothing to stop this pawn from running all the way through. Well, maybe his knight could try and get over there, but I don't think it makes it in time. The bishop is in a position to intercept most of the paths of the knight. So anyway, that would be the quickest win. I played c6, and he blockaded with b6, and now he's got it's done. Yeah, I shouldn't have allowed that blockade basically on the dark squares because I have a light squared bishop, and it's difficult for me to chase him away. But in the long run, I'm still winning because his king is tied down over here. I can't ever move away, or I start pushing these pawns through. And maybe I can bring my king over and support. Like if I were to get my king to this square, for example, then I could start pushing my a pawn forward and break through that way. But I played over here on the king side. Let's see. So let's just go forward. And after a while, we got this position where, let's see, yeah, his last move was knight to h7, and I played bishop to g6, and I'm winning some more material or mopping up on the king side here as well. And like I said, his king is tied down. It can never leave this square. So he resigned at this point. Anyway, it was an interesting game. I guess it shows how to punish a player who doesn't play correctly in the opening and create good squares for all his pieces. There was this old saying in chess, if you have one bad piece, then your whole position is bad, and that maybe is an illustration of this. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.